Flash.
Welcome to Fiery Discourse, your podcast and media featuring dragonesses, female dinosaurs, and other similar saurians and scalies. I'm your host, Ludmillanon. With me are my co-hosts, Angron, Stryker, LuckyEevee, Jordan, and Yusei. Today is our 40. Yusei, sorry. Today is our 42nd episode, and we're discussing 1996's The New Adventures of Flash Gordon episode, The Invisible Claw. So, let's get things started.
Savior of the universe.
Start with that.
Cue the Queen song, baby.
Yep, exactly. I mean, you can't go wrong with Queen to start us off. But yeah, Flash Gordon was a comic strip created by Alex Raymond in the 1930s that was very, very popular, and it got many adaptations. Its first and probably one of its more well-known adaptations was the 1930s film serials that starred Buster Crabbe as Flash Gordon and Charles Middleton as Ming the Merciless. If you haven't seen it, and if you've seen Star Wars, you basically have seen the Flash Gordon serials because George Lucas took a lot, and I mean a lot of inspiration for the original Star Wars from these Flash Gordon serials of the 1930s and 40s.
Oh, two thoughts on that. First, he also did that and Valerian City of 1,000 Planets. And the second one, Lucas. It's interesting, honestly. And second, oh man, I hear Buster Crabbe and I just think I just see Mr. Krabs as Flash Gordon. I'm just
oh gosh, that'd be interesting. But no, Buster Crabbe was an Olympic champion. He was a champion swimmer, and he played Flash Gordon, which was his best known role, and he did all his own stunts, which were often, because this was the 1930s, very, very dangerous stunts they had him do. And he got paid next to nothing, and he kind of regretted Star Wars because of that, getting all the attention. But it was because of the success of Star Wars that we got what is probably now the best-known version of Flash Gordon, at least amongst the current generation, the 1980 movie, which it has its moments. Believe me, it is not as good as Star Wars or even some of the Star Wars knockoffs at the times, but it's fun enough. You know, it has Brian Blessed in it. It has Max von Sydow as Ming the Merciless doing a good job, and it definitely is a fun time.
Yeah, and also it also had Queen pretty much do by far the most iconic theme of Flash Gordon, period.
Oh, definitely. It is something that is, again, getting Queen to do the soundtrack is something that is just such a perfect decision that it really, really works out for the benefit of the movie. But one of the problems I feel with adapting Flash Gordon nowadays, and actually more often, is kind of also what happened with like the character of Alan Quartermain. That Indiana Jones took so much from the character of Alan Quartermain that if you try to do it today, it's like, well, they're just ripping off Indiana Jones, even though Alan Quartermain came out decades earlier. And it's kind of the same problem with Flash Gordon, I feel.
Yeah, it's also kind of the same. Yeah, it's kind of the same thing with Land Before Time and Dink the Dinosaur. Like, if they were to try and adapt Dink the Dinosaur today, and it would just and like they already did it in the past. They already made this in the past, like in the 1980s. But like, if they tried to do that today, it would basically like, oh hey, it's ripping off Land Before Time or something like that. You know?
Exactly. Yeah. I get it. Because Star Wars has taken. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, it's like, honestly, this might be one of the earliest instances of, oh hey, that's just ripping off Land Before Time or something like that. Which, in terms of like animation and whatnot,
it's kind of the opposite if you think about it, though.
Yeah, it definitely is. You know.
But even though neither ripped off the other.
No, exactly. And it's like Star Wars now has such a huge cultural like footprint that even though the thing that inspired it is kind of being put off to the wayside, which is kind of sad in a way, but you understand why it happens as well, because they took what basically came from their childhood and they basically used it as a springboard for their own franchises in that. But this cartoon, the 1996's The New Adventures of Flash Gordon show, it was an attempt kind of to update Flash Gordon to the modern day, and they did some changes to make it more hip with the times. One of the things that they made Flash and Dale Arden into teenagers rather than adults, as they have been in all other previous adaptations, rather.
Indeed.
And yeah, it's something that it's noticeable, but they don't go too obnoxious with it, with all of the 90s-isms and that. You could do
Indeed.
a lot worse.
Oh, hell yeah.
With something
Honestly,
like this.
yeah, you could. Like, if anyone remembers Chaotic.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, the episode we're talking about today is The Invisible Claw, and this one opens up with Flash, Dale, and Ejod, which is a cat-like alien on mega skates, which kind of looks like Master Chief's armor to me.
Actually, Ejod looks a little more like a lemur, honestly, like a ring-tailed lemur a little bit. But
I can kind of see that actually. Yeah, looking at him. But anyway, yeah. They basically Ejod basically says that they must stop Ming the Merciless, and it turns out that General Lynch's, who is Ming's subordinate, his ship is right by them. Flash wonders what Ming is doing in his desert town before they're spotted by General Lynch, and Flash uses his ray gun to blow out the light, which is something that, again, this show, for all of its faults, you can definitely tell that whoever made it actually cared about Flash Gordon and continuity and the lore, which you'll see more of in this moment. But, of course, funny thing is that, yeah, they wear helmets in this part, probably so the animation didn't have to do the mouth movements, because even though the animation is pretty decent as far as, mid-90s shows go, there are a couple of times where they reuse a lot of shots, and it's very, very noticeable. And this is probably one of the most egregious examples. The three of them are skating away. It cuts back to Lynch on his ship about to fire on them, and then it cuts back to the exact same shot of the three skating away, and they get to a cliffside, and Lynch fires on them while they're getting away, which seemingly kills them. Now, this is something that's actually really clever. I don't know if it's intentional or not, but if it was, it is such a clever little reference, because Flash Gordon serials, like a lot of the movie serials of the time, what would happen is that they would always end on a cliffhanger, like Flash Gordon's ship would be blown up, or he would about to be tortured or almost killed, and it would always be like, stay tuned for the next chapter kind of thing. And then the next week would always show how Flash Gordon got out of the situation almost immediately. Like right when it's near death and doom for him, he would always find a way to get out of it. And that's how they would get people to go to the theaters to see the next chapter, to see what happened with Flash Gordon.
That's pretty clever, honestly.
Yeah,
it is, actually.
Yeah, and if it's intentional, like I say, I definitely think that is a really, really cute idea. And then from here we get the theme song, which is mostly made up of electric guitars and theremins, which sadly I don't think they were able to afford the Queen theme song, that would have been amazing and would have made the show a 10 out of 10.
You can tell there was a bit of a budget with this.
Yeah. But that being said, this opening, despite ultimately having the electric guitars and whatnot, it honestly sounds it's honestly not out of place for the overall series. It has a bit of classical tones to it, which is something you don't exactly see a whole lot of.
Oh, absolutely.
All things considered.
Yeah, definitely. And
it shows how clever this show really was at times.
Oh no, it definitely is. Even with this episode, it has a lot of things that you wouldn't expect from a Flash Gordon show in the 90s to do. But it's after the opening credits, like I said, we get to see just how Flash got out of the situation. They took off their skate suits and they put them on automatic control, meaning that Lynch only blew up the empty skate suits, which is again a nice clever reference to how Flash Gordon would get out of things. Flash Gordon's ship would be blown up, but then the week after it would show, he parachuted out at the last second or something like that. And again, I really think that this is an intentional callback to the original movie serials, which really nice touch. But yeah,
Indeed.
Lynch then calls Ming to tell him the good news, while Flash calls Princess Thundra, who is basically she's a variation of Prince Thun of the Lion People. And she's basically, Princess Thundra of the Lionoids, I guess they're called. I don't know why they changed their name.
Thundercats.
Yeah. But technically, Flash Gordon did it first. They were the original cat people in Flash Gordon, because that was in the 30s. But yeah, then we get back and we finally get to see Ming the Merciless's design, and he looks completely different in here compared to other adaptations. he's depicted as like a green-skinned alien that kind of looks like a fish or reptile-like, thanks to his finned
reptilian.
ears.
Honestly, he does.
Yeah, but there's a reason for that, because Ming the Merciless. There's a reason he was called Ming the Merciless. He is depicted typically as an Asian-coded man. He has like the goatee. He had like the long eyebrows. He has
that makes sense.
Almost
honestly,
like not even almost like even slanted eyes in like the original serial, which really makes you realize like, oh yeah, this was the 30s.
That's why this was definitely from a different time. You can absolutely tell.
It was, and but there was no way that Flash Gordon cartoon in the 90s could have Ming the Merciless look like how he originally did, unfortunately. Not unfortunately, but there's no way that a Flash Gordon show could basically have Ming the Merciless look like how he did back then. Yeah.
Oh,
so anyway,
no, absolutely not.
Yeah, no, definitely not. Yeah. So anyway, General Lynch tells Ming about Flash Gordon's death before he sees Flash on Thunder's spaceship. Meanwhile, we get to see Flash and the others fly over Sandstone, which is Ejad's home. And Ming basically wants to take control of its solar power. And again, Sandstone is very accurate to the original, like a desert nomadic town and that. But for now, it's more likely to remind people of Tatooine from Star Wars.
Kind of.
Oh, it did look like that, now that you mention it.
Yeah, and that's partially where George Lucas got inspiration for it, was from this area in the comic strip.
Oh.
And like I said, for all the show's faults, it does really seem to have a respect for the original, and that they actually seem to care about it.
So they absolutely did, and I actually adore that they absolutely had care for the original source material.
Exactly. It's like they could have done like a cheap cash-in thing, but it seemed like they actually tried to update Flash Gordon for a modern audience, and didn't really take, sadly, and we'll get to that later. But yeah. So anyway,
continuing. Sorry.
No, that's okay. That's no problem. But yeah, Sandstone is under attack by Ming's forces, and it's here that the show rips off Star Wars rather than Star Wars ripping off Flash Gordon, basically. Because this fight scene is really reminiscent of like Han and Luke using the cannons to blow up the TIE fighters. It really does kind of remind me of that. And so Flash destroys Ming's ships while the Sandstone inhabitants cheer. And one thing that's funny, and again, another little animation error here, the cheering animation of the inhabitants is clearly on a loop, because they do it and then it cuts away, and then 5 seconds later they're doing the same exact animation. But yeah, there's also we get dialogue like, "Now let's slam dunk Ming," which is really just kind of trying too hard, you know? It's like that clearly is trying to be like, a little bit of that whole 90s extreme kind of thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So basically what happens then is that Ming is enraged as to why his attack failed. Lynch wants to use the behemoth to attack Sandstone, but Ming needs the area intact. He then decides to contact Sulfa, his private scientist, to help him out with this.
Yep.
Now, and Sulfa is a dragoness. She has a really unique design. I like how she resembles a more traditional dragoness. She has like finned ears and red eyes, and she stands on her hind legs.
She's kind of a mix between a T-Rex too. Honestly.
Yeah, that is well.
The Dragon of Mongo, but like,
yeah. But yeah, like I said, it's a more realistic design, and I kind of give him credit for not going full anthropomorphic with her. This is the one case where like not being so anthropomorphic actually really works out for the better in this case.
Indeed.
It works for her character as well as design. I will absolutely say that.
Yeah, and the little touches, like, of course, her wearing a lab coat and the necklace that she wears is also nice to see. And Sulfa might be, now this again is trying to tie into the serial, which might not be. She resembles slightly a dragon that attacked Flash Gordon in the 1930 serial. We didn't actually see the dragon, we only saw its shadow because, well, 1930s effects, Flash Gordon serials did not have the highest of budgets, so they couldn't exactly do like stop motion to make a full dragon. But from what we see of it, its finned ears and like the hind legs, I really wonder if they based Sulfa on that unknown dragon from the source material.
It may have been partially based on it.
May have, yeah. But yeah, anyway, Sulfa is interesting because she is seemingly the last dragon left on Mongo, but later episodes would apparently add more dragons to the show, and we might do another episode on this sometime in the future if, the other dragonesses have like a predominant amount of screen time. We might cover this again sometime in the future. But one thing that's interesting is Ming tries to lord this fact over her, but she isn't moved by this. She says that Ming needs her to keep him from being overthrown.
So who's really in control here?
Which again, I really do like that. I like that, they actually kept her like as a character. They made her really forceful. They made her, she doesn't suffer for fools or anything like that. Which again, I really do like that how they did her personality in this, because it was very easy.
Her personality, I immediately loved her when she came on.
She reminds me very much of someone like Senku or Mayuri Kurosuchi from Dr. Stone or Bleach, respectively. Like, she's one of those characters where like that sort of thing is just like a mere inconvenience to her, and yet she's not truly, evil. Like she's one of those people who works a dead end job, but like is sort of like forced to, but honestly has more control than they let on. Like
it's a means to an end, and she's smarter than she lets on, and I love that about her.
Yeah,
exactly. I mean, that right there, that is perfect. But yeah, like I said, the thing that's interesting too about it is that basically with her as well, is that she's not really a villain. She's more of an anti-villain, if you will, which you will see later on in the episode. And I feel like if this show had ran for longer, we might have actually seen her go from being like a villain to an ally of Flash Gordon, but we never got that, of course.
For the most part, she is, if I recall correctly, but I do kind of want to see more of her. Make no mistake on that.
I do absolutely as well. Like,
yeah.
I can't forget how actually well written she was. As a character.
Definitely. And again, especially for a '90s cartoon, being so nuanced was something that did not happen on like lesser made shows like this.
Even the actress that they chose for her was perfect.
Oh no, definitely the voice. The voice is one of the best aspects of Sulfa in general.
Yeah,
she has that haughtiness about her, but she also has
it's haughty, but
superiority. But also with
it very much is superior. It's haughty. It's also very collected and very much like
very scientific. And again, we'll get to that in a little bit.
I'm better than you. Personality made her perfect.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. And again, it fits for the whole Dragoness archetype in that. So basically, Ming then decides to use the titular invisible claw, much to General Lynch's horror. And Sulfa basically asks what happens if Flash Gordon interferes, to which Ming says he will deal with Flash Gordon himself. And it turns out the invisible claw is Invisible Rockmen, which is actually accurate to both the comic strip and the serial. I don't think they appeared in the movie, to be honest, but basically what happened is the reason they were invisible. Yeah, the reason they were invisible was so that they didn't have to draw or basically create costumes for them, which even though they did later on in the original thing, they were invisible so that they didn't have to really create them. Budget. Oh god. So Ming basically gloats that Flash is gonna walk right into his trap, and we get another weird little bit of animation here. When Ming laughs, his head is just bobbing up and down without him moving his mouth at all. So basically, Flash and Dale then see Ming's ship, and they decide to evade it by going into the underground river, to which Ming drops torpedoes in it. And it's here that we get kind of like the problem with the voice acting on this show. Excuse me. It's kind of a mixed bag. Some, like Sulfa, are really, really good, and others, like the voice actors playing Dale, are just, they're really not into it. You can tell that they're just reading off a script at some points. Like, there's not really any inflection coming from it, which kind of drags it down a little bit.
No, it's like they didn't even want to. They didn't want to be here.
Exactly. It felt like, okay, let's get this done and get this over with, and then we can, we can just go out and get this cartoon finished. It was like they didn't really even like do other takes. It seems it felt like that. Even though, again, this show isn't bad by any stretch of the imagination, but it just isn't. It could have been a lot better. It could have been like a shot in the arm for the Flash Gordon franchise, but it kind of fell short of that, in my opinion. So anyway, the ship barely avoids the attack by going underwater. It then flies out and strikes Ming's ship. Ming's ship then leaves again, as we hear the same exact cheering animation and sound effects from earlier being reused. It's been like 5-10 minutes since then, which is something that is really, really just out of the ordinary, you know? So yeah, yeah. And basically what happens is we get to see Talon and Dr. Zarkoff are there to meet Flash. Now, Dr. Zarkoff is traditionally the man who got them to Mongo in the first place on his rocket ship. And here he's more of like a nebbish, nerdy type compared to other adaptations where he's basically like a super, smart professor type. And
yeah, he basically got snarfed.
Yeah, basically.
Absolute snarf.
Oh, definitely. And Talon is, I guess, he might be like the winged men, the Hawkmen, excuse me, from like the serial and famously the movie where the lead one was played by Brian Blessed. So you're not going to get as good as that one, you know? Yeah. But anyway, the inhabitants of Sandstorm celebrate their triumph while the Rockmen just walk right into the city. They go past a guard lizard, and the group then question why Ming didn't destroy Sandstone to begin with. And it's here we get Zarkoff gives Flash Gordon a scroll with information on it about Mongo's dragons and what happened to them. And basically, it turns out that Ming definitely had something to do with why they're seemingly, because there might be other dragons that show up later on in the show. I do not know, but we'll have to, again, check and see if there are. Then we'll definitely talk about this. But yeah, Ming wants to steal the scroll so that Sulfa would never know the truth. But then they realize Ming would have destroyed the city to get at the scroll. So that can't be it either. Now, Sandstone, being a desert city, runs basically on solar power. So the Rockmen disable the power of the city and they begin attacking the citizens. And now Sulfa is ordered to move on to Phase 2, where she turns even more of the Rockmen invisible. And it's here where we get to see Flash being attacked by the Rockmen and is taken away by them. And there's something about the way that it's animated, like him being lifted up and carried onto like the ship and that. It actually looks unintentionally humorous to me. I don't know why. Maybe it's the way that he was positioned or something. It just looked like it was trying to be a serious moment, but there was something about the inherent silliness of how it looked that was kind of silly, you know?
Oh yeah, like again with the animation, it's fucking you can tell they had a budget, and it just even though I can say low budget can be very charming, actually.
Oh no, definitely.
It's just sometimes it's noticeable.
Yeah, no, we understand completely. You know, sometimes again, low budgets can sometimes make things even look more charming. But in this case, you can tell this is a case when they had a little bit too much ambition for the budget they were given. And I'm not saying they should have cut it down, because believe me, I would have much rather had had this than had them not even try at all, like Filmation or something. But at least with this, again, it's not perfect, but it's not the worst animated show either, which, again, I give credit for.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's definitely a step up from other 90s, and it's definitely a step up from stuff like, I don't know, Thundercats or whatnot.
Oh, no, definitely.
It's not bad, but it is very much higher quality in that regard.
I do want to say, it did give me Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles vibes.
Very much
I can see it. I can actually see that. Very much so. It felt very much like the 87 show in particular, like the later seasons of it in a way. But yeah, what happens with the actual show now is that Flash is the Talon tries to save Flash, but he's struck by the Rockmen and knocked out. The group basically used their ship to power a solar cannon so that they could try to attack Ming's ship. Flash is then imprisoned by Ming, who basically orders Sulfa to dissect his brain and whatnot. And it's here where Flash's snarky personality, I don't know how to feel about it because it doesn't feel so much like Flash Gordon, who was always more of the serious, square-jawed, pulp hero type of the 30s. And again, this is adapting to a modern audience, which I get, but I feel like having him like cracking jokes in that, it feels a little awkward to the character.
It's much like with Dick Tracy, although he didn't get a 90s show, but like as an example for a hero from the 30s.
Yeah, exactly. Although I will say this, the Dick Tracy movie from 1990-91 is an amazing, amazing movie. If you haven't seen it, track it down and watch it immediately.
That's what I'm going to do.
The most beautiful comic book / comic strip, whatever, movie ever. It is a feast for the eyes. And you have Al Pacino as Big Boy Caprice. He is amazing. Just the way they do the gangsters from the original with their grotesque designs and they translate it to live action is amazing in general. But yeah, getting back to Flash Gordon, Ming claims that the Rockmen are going to reclaim the greatest treasure of Mongo, which turns out to be Ming's supposedly deceased wife, which again is canon to the lore of it, that Ming's wife was killed and he wants to revive her, as well as, destroying the Earth and whatnot. So, again, I give him credit. So, what happens then is that the solar cannons turn on before Ming uses like a shadow caster beam to suck out all the light, which again seemingly dooms Sandstone. And it's here we get more of Sulfa and her personality. I really like just how she's so businesslike as she prepares to torture Flash. It really works for her, so she takes no pleasure for it. For her, it is just a job in that. And Flash tells her that he knows more about her species than Ming does, and Sulfa is legitimately interested in this. She turns off the device as soon as she's going to basically like torture him, and she basically asks him to tell her everything that he knows. And I do like that they kept that aspect, that she wasn't just blindly following Ming, that she's actually willing to help out Flash Gordon if it ends up basically helping her own side of things.
Indeed.
Yeah. So basically, Flash tells her about the scroll, and Sulfa basically agrees to let him go, only if he gives it to her. But the thing that's interesting is that she still isn't convinced. Even though she's basically about to let him go and let him basically get back to Sandstone and save it, she still can't trust him completely. Which, again, really is nuanced for a show like this and a character like this. It would have been so easy to just make her like a Bebop and Rocksteady type, But I feel like actually giving her like more depth and more characterization, it really worked out for the better in this case.
Indeed.
But yeah, basically what happens is a Sulfa then lets him go, and it's here where she turns Flash Gordon invisible with one of her rays, which actually is something that Dr. Zarkoff did in the comic strip and serial, and she tells him how to destroy the Shadowcaster. The group is basically wondering what they could do, and Zarkoff tells them that they could run and basically, hide in that, which, again, shows how different they made him here to how they made him in other versions, that he's more cowardly and he's more like almost comedy relief, which is very strange for a character like Dr. Zarkoff to be the comedy relief, because he was more
very much snarfed in this.
Yeah, exactly. That is a great comparison right there. He was more like the I guess Q from James Bond type of character who would always like give Flash various gadgets and help him out and whatnot. And the actual Flash Gordon comic strip and serials had a comedy relief, and a nosy news reporter who ended up getting tangled with them when they went to Mongo. This is in like some of the later serials, but yeah. Basically what happens in this show is Flash sneaks in and disables the Shadowcaster before he steals Lynch's ray gun and he destroys the machine. And then Flash gives away his position by mocking Ming, which, again, it just feels so weird and out of character that he would just do that. Like if Flash had remained silent, he would have been able basically to get away with it,
Indeed.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And speaking of voice acting and that, and out of characterization and whatnot, there's a very strange pause in dialogue with Dale's line. Like they spliced two takes together, but they forgot to take out the basic pause in it. Yep.
Indeed.
So it's here where we get like the basically Deus Ex Machina, basically the return of the Mega Skates from earlier, as they use their powers basically to reveal the Rockmen as the solar cannons all fire on them and seemingly destroy all the Rockmen. Flash is apparently killed, but he shows up unharmed just as all of the Rockmen are destroyed. And we get to see Flash meeting up with Sulfa again as he gives her the scroll. And again, another good characterization piece with her is that she compliments him on being a worthy enemy.
Yeah,
Flash
calls him an honorable enemy.
Exactly. And again, that is something that, Ming would not do that, or like the other characters.
Ming definitely doesn't respect Flash.
No,
I will say
hates
that.
Yeah.
Like he's like a true villain. But like
Indeed.
Sulfa, you can tell that she actually respects Flash after this encounter.
Oh,
Indeed.
definitely, yeah. And also, what Flash also, I do like how he tells her that they don't have to be enemies as she leaves, and we see her seemingly like she considers it. It's like she's really thinking, do I have to be enemies with this person who helped me out in this way? And I think later on they made her more and more sympathetic, but of course we will not know what will happen after that because I'll tell that in a minute, but basically the episode ends on Ming's ship as he vows to bring his wife back to life, and the 1996 Flash Gordon cartoon, The New Adventures of Flash Gordon, it would only last for about 26 episodes, and then it would be completely canceled, which left apparently a season 2, and basically things like that were off the table. So we'll never know if Sulfa was going to betray Ming to help Flash, if Ming was, able to revive his wife and whatnot. And
I think
another
there's
interesting
maybe
thing
a few,
about this show.
I think there's a few episodes where that's ultimately. I think there are a few episodes where she shows up. I'm not sure, but either way, yeah, I really would have wanted to see that because
definitely.
She's a very interesting character.
One interesting change that I actually didn't get to before now, I kind of forgot to say it, is that Mongo is said to be an alternate dimension and not a planet, which is a very minor change, but it's an interesting one for its implications.
Indeed.
Because in all other Flash Gordon versions, Planet Mongo is, a planet. But
Indeed
here, it's actually an alternate dimension, which means that I guess the weirdness of Mongo makes a little bit more sense in that case. But yeah, aside from an equally short-lived live-action TV show in the 2000s, believe it or not, that it lasted pretty much the exact same length of time, 26 episodes, and it was canceled, the character of Flash Gordon really hasn't been seen in anything for quite a long time. And I think, again, part of that is, number one is, sidestepping the whole Ming the Merciless issue, which, is obvious why they can't do an accurate Ming the Merciless. They have to do a lot of reimagining with that.
Indeed.
But the other thing I feel is, as I said earlier, is that Star Wars took so much from Flash Gordon that basically it is very, very difficult now, I feel, for people to do like a straight Flash Gordon adaptation without feeling like it is a knockoff of Star Wars.
Of course.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
and
absolutely.
Again, it is definitely kind of a shame. And yeah, now it is time for the question of the week. And the question this week is favorite science fiction franchises. Now, I have quite a few of them. I really do now. Sorry, but yeah, I actually really do like Star Trek. I think my favorites are the original series, Next Generation, and some of Deep Space Nine. I feel like Deep Space Nine kind of got too much contemplating its navel by the end, and the rest of it, like Voyager and Enterprise, it just felt like kind of fell apart.
You should really give Lower Decks.
Yeah,
you should really give Lower Decks a shot. It's really fun.
Yeah, I definitely gotta check it out because I do like the idea of it and the concept of it. I feel like the Kelvin timeline of it, the J.J. Abrams movies, they were okay, but they felt too actionized. If that makes I
haven't seen Beyond yet, but I do have the original in Star Trek Into Darkness movies.
Yeah.
Nice.
They need a replacement Into Darkness because it like skips in one scene.
Yeah, I see. But no, like I say, for me, I feel like they kind of Hollywoodized it a little bit too much. And again, I feel like that's why the original movies kind of hold up a little bit better. Not all of them. I mean, Star Trek 5, is absolute garbage. Do not watch it. That movie is not good. But yeah, I feel as a whole, it's a franchise that is in a very weird spot because you have stuff again like the Orville that actually did some Star Trek stuff better than like Discovery did at some points, I feel.
Yeah, I mean,
like,
more or less. It pretty much did Star Trek Lower Decks first, if you can believe it. But honestly, yeah, I still think I honestly want to watch that show because it very much sounds fun, and it's made by surprisingly and I think it has Seth MacFarlane in it.
Yeah, he wrote it and he created it, and I do like about I do like about the Orville. I do like that he plays it mostly completely straight as a Star Trek thing. It's not a spoof. It's not a parody. It's not like Mel Brooks's Spaceballs or that. It plays it completely straight Star Trek type scenario. Like a lot of the plot lines and a lot of the stories would not be out of place on the original Star Trek series or like Next Generation or that in the continuity. Another sci-fi that I really enjoy, and believe it or not, it's one of those things where I don't like the franchise as much as I just like the first installment of it, is Clark and of course Kubrick, 2001: A Space Odyssey. I feel like I tried
that one's a good one.
That's great. It's my favorite movie of all time. It is something that is just a mind-blowing, beautiful movie. It is a fantastic experience. Like, it raises so many questions and whatnot, and it is just, it never answers them, which I love. And that, again, for like 1967, 68, it is mind-blowing how they did some of these effects. Like,
so, wait, which one are you talking about again?
2001: A Space Odyssey.
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
yeah. And again, it's my favorite movie of all time.
That's one of my favorite movies ever.
Yeah, it's my favorite movie of all time. It is just, it's a movie that, it is one of those movies that very few that I could say is a perfect movie. It has reached its final form. It could not be a better version of itself. Interestingly enough, I saw 2010 like once or twice. I just can't get into it. I know Clark wrote 2010 and he wrote like other sequels as well, but I feel like that kind of misses the point of the original in a way. I feel like the original 2001 is so perfect that it doesn't need any questions to be answered, basically. I feel like it's trying to answer a question that you don't need the answer to, basically. Like, it basically explains what happened to Frank, what happened to Dave when he became the Star Child, what happened to HAL 9000, and you don't need those answered. I do like the mystery of the original, and that making all kinds of questions like that, it really, really doesn't work. And of course, there's some one-off movies that I like Tom Cruise's Oblivion. Of course, Matrix is good. Aside from the last Matrix, which I tried watching like when I was on I think of an airplane or something, and I could not get into it. I'm sorry. The fourth Matrix movie just does not do it for me. It feels like 3 was the perfect ending, and you should have just stopped right there. You should have quit while you were ahead, basically. But yeah, that's my answer for basically my favorite sci-fi franchises. So, Angron, what would you like to say?
Oh dear, that is a tricky one. Because with so many sci-fi things out there, it's hard to honestly just pick one, all things considered. Because, let's see, to start things off, I do admit that while Star Wars is pretty great, it has its flaws more times than not. And even though I still enjoy many aspects of it, Clone Wars for life, I will.
Absolutely, I absolutely adored Clone Wars.
Definitely. Clone Wars, I feel it is the best thing that Star Wars has done in a long time. Although I will admit, with Star Wars, I like the originals. I have a soft spot for the prequels. I actually feel that, okay, they're not as good as the original, but they're not like the worst thing ever, like everybody says that they were for a while.
Yeah, true.
Absolutely, they are not.
No, they have great moments. I feel like Revenge of the Sith is a fantastic movie.
Yeah. Even though Attack of the Clones is admittedly the worst of the prequel trilogy, it's not as bad as everyone says it is.
And again, you could make a direct. Sorry. I'll wait till you do.
I will ultimately defend. Yeah, I'll ultimately defend the prequels. And I absolutely, Revenge of the Sith is the best of the prequel movies, and I grew up with Phantom Menace. I will say that overall, in that regard, I absolutely love the Clone Wars. I love some of its spin-off, Tales of the Jedi, and I will admit Rebels is a little lesser than I remember it, but it definitely had its fun moments. I will say that. Also Bad Batch. Good lordy, that I freaking love those. Like the clones were easily the best part of the prequels, and stuff like that is why, especially with the Bradley Baker voice. Oh man! Then you got stuff like Robotech and Transformers. Like it's robots in space, man. And you got alien robots. How do you compete with that crap?
Robotech. That's I remember hearing that's like actually 2 anime series and
3 anime series.
3
fucking 3.
3 animes, and they just like mashed it into one.
Yeah, we're
technically 4 or 5 since Macross is still going to this day, but ones I want to focus on are the Robotech Invasion ones and the Robotech and the first Macross ones. I also will talk about Macross Plus since it's basically part of that part one, but yeah, I will handily say that I grew up on that series and I love it. I very much do. But then there's Transformers, which gave alien robots sentience for the most part, and it has spanned for years. I
absolutely adore Transformers. I actually grew up watching fucking Armada and Energon.
Yeah. First toy I ever remember getting, and one that I still have to this day, is Robots in Disguise 2001 Optimus Prime.
Awesome.
That was, for lack of a better term, prime. But then you get 2 other sci-fi franchises like Metroid and Alien.
Oh yes, both of those are good choices too.
Sake, how can I say no to these? Yeah. Okay, to be fair, Alien 3 was a little. It was a thing. I have not seen Prometheus, but I haven't heard good things about it. Alien Resurrection absolutely sucks so far as I've heard.
Was also a thing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
However, I will admit that I really adore the first 2 movies. First 2 movies are awesome. I own Alien Isolation. I've played 2 of the Alien arcade games, which yes. And oh man, there's just so much to talk about with Alien. It's part of the Blade Runner universe, if you can believe about it, which gives it immediate brownie points, hands down. But then we get to Metroid. Pretty much Nintendo's first attempt at horror, and it's by far I'm sorry, Transformers, Star Wars, Transformers, Star Wars, Robotech, freaking Alien, hell, Doctor Who even? They do not hold a candle to Metroid, hands down.
I was just playing Metroid earlier.
Nice. But yes, there is just so much about Metroid that absolutely should be tapped upon, and oh man, Nintendo in the past have certainly tapped upon it. There's the Metroid Zero Mission, Metroid. I still need to play the 3DS version of Metroid 2.
Metroid Return of Samus.
Yeah, I still need to beat Metroid Fusion, but it's very much a good game. I will die on the hill that Metroid Other M definitely is not a perfect game, but it's very much a worth your time for the most part.
It's the way that they wrote Samus is why it's bad.
Yeah, apparently it was to appeal more to Japan, I think, because historically Metroid in Japan has never really been that big on
Indeed.
It's always been like, Fire Emblem has always been like the third huge Nintendo franchise over there. And Metroid was always more of a niche thing.
That being said, I will stand on the hill that is awesome. Also, Metroid Prime, come on, man. The trilogy is amazing. 2's the lesser for better or worse, but come on. Metroid Prime is hands down awesome. Just
definitely, 100%.
There's no way I cannot disagree with that.
Yeah,
like I grew up playing Metroid Prime.
Oh hell yeah! Super Metroid. It happened. It came. It went. It rocked the frickin' Super Nintendo for many good reasons.
Which I am playing it right now on my Switch.
Oh, nice.
And now we get to Metroid Dread, the most recent, barring remakes, Metroid game, period, and it is the first ever time, aside from Eternal Darkness Sanity's Requiem, that Nintendo have made a legit horror game. Soft horror, but still horror nonetheless. And, oh man, it is basically...
Well, technically, Eternal Darkness was not made by Nintendo.
Yeah, Konami, all
by them, I think.
Doesn't matter. Metroid Dread. This game is basically a mix of horror game and Dark Souls in terms of its difficulty and how you ultimately need to, be on your game for this. It can be tough, but it can be fair. It is not impossible, and it's what makes Metroid overall so amazing. And I will say Metroid for that damn reason.
I definitely can agree with you there. I definitely see where you're coming from. And yeah, just the thing I wanted to bring up earlier, just a tiny little tangent, is that it's interesting you brought up Attack of the Clones, because the part at the end with the arena where they're fighting all the different monsters and that is also taken from the Flash Gordon serial, where the same thing happens with Flash Gordon.
Nice. I mainly remember it from Lego Star Wars the Complete Saga, where I was where that level, a lot was going on.
Oh no, definitely.
Remember, it was also in the original Lego Star Wars, actually, since it's prequel trilogy.
Oh, nice, yeah. So, Stryker, what would you say is your favorite sci-fi franchises?
Thinking about it, I'm actually on the fence with a lot of them. I absolutely adored watching Doctor Who when I was a kid.
Yeah, Doctor Who. I watched the modern version of Doctor Who, with Eccleston, Tennant, Smith.
Oh, that, yeah. The everything from the Ninth Doctor onward. I haven't seen anything with the first through the Eighth Doctor, unfortunately.
I have, for the most part. I've only gotten the fourth, but It's a good time.
Oh yeah. I've seen some of the Fourth Doctor, however, and a little tiny bit of the second. But that's because of the animated specials on BBC.
Right. Like I said, and the thing that's interesting about Doctor Who is just how the fandom is so basically convinced to remake the older episodes, and that they have gone to every corner of the world to try and find even incomplete copies of these episodes and animate them. And
it's
basically
because of how improperly stored the
BBC that
were.
Sadly happened with a lot of early television.
It's because
a lot of early TV
disliked it that much.
Yeah,
BBC
a lot of early
itself.
TV. They got rid of a lot of it because they wanted to just reuse the nitrate for the film, which happened with a lot of movies as well, believe it or not.
Oh, that's interesting, actually.
Yeah, but no, like I said, yeah, I remember watching a little bit of it, and I like it for what it is. I don't think I got into it as much as some other people, but it definitely is. It could be a really good time.
Oh, it can be. Very much so, it can be.
Yep. And LuckyEevee, what would you say is your favorite science fiction franchise?
You generally cannot convince me that Pokemon is not science fiction.
It counts. It counts. By all means, that counts. Yeah. No, that definitely counts. I mean, Mewtwo, it was made in a laboratory. You have stuff like Deoxys. You have stuff like even Magnemite. So yeah, Pokemon definitely counts.
Also Deoxys.
I actually have to agree with Pokemon. I also enjoyed that growing up.
Oh, if we're including Pokemon and as like science fiction, that totally is in mine as well. That definitely is mine, and I can't wait till we get to talk more about
the right
franchise.
to say that.
Yeah, when we get to talk about the franchise, to be very sooner than you think. Jordan has her microphone basically muted, but she said that her favorite science fiction franchise was Star Wars. Believe it or not.
Nice, that makes sense.
I have to agree with that too, because like my mom actually saw the first one when it was in theaters, like back in 1979.
Oh, nice. Same thing happened, believe it or not, with my mom. Basically, what happened is a friend of hers told her that you've got basically like needled her. You've got to see this movie. You got to see this movie. They basically, she was driven all the way out to like to a couple of other towns down the way to where they had like the Dolby Sound Theater. And basically, this guy hyped it up so much that when she saw it, her reaction was like, "That's it."
So, that's the movie you hyped up for so long?
Yeah. Which, again, that I could see that happening because there was nothing like, believe it or not, Star Wars out there, because
there is nothing quite like Star Wars anymore.
Yeah, because before this, you got to figure, science fiction was always more stuff like, say, Logan's Run, or, again, like 2001, or... Really not another good sci-fi one. I actually forgot to mention it. Is Westworld, the 1974 movie version.
Westworld.
The movie. Have you seen the Yul Brynner movie?
I have yet to see it, but
it is a classic. You have got to see that. I mean, if you're a fan of the TV show, you owe it to yourself to watch the original movie that stars Yul Brynner, Richard Benjamin, and James Brolin. Yeah, it is a great movie. Basically, it inspired the Terminator. Believe it or not.
Nice.
Fuck yeah.
The gunslinger, Yul Brynner's android robotic gunslinger, he directly inspired the Terminator.
Thanks for reminding me. That's another favorite of mine.
Yeah, Terminator is good. I like T3, Terminator 3, better than a lot of people. I feel like if the franchise had just ended there, it would have been a perfect ending point. Like, Terminator 3, it ends it, like, Judgment Day is inevitable, you can't stop it. But at least they managed to get the word out in that, so it's like a stable time.
Isolation was a very nice slice of life little thing that went on. So I'll give it that.
But then the later movies have been garbage. I mean, Genesis is garbage. Dark Fate is garbage.
Oh, I heard about that.
Whenever
Even though, like, Robonyan from
Robonyan from Yokai Watch.
Yeah, that was inspired by that was made for the premiere of Terminator in Japan.
Wow, I did not know that. That's interesting. But yeah, no, I feel like at this point the Terminator movies are just excuses for Arnold Schwarzenegger to get millions of dollars again. It feels at this point it's like, how do you make a Terminator? I mean, he's it doesn't even make sense. I get like liquid metal and they had to put like organic tissue over the robot body, but it just no. I feel like T3, you had a perfect endpoint. It's like you could have just stopped there and that would have been perfect. But yeah, now it is time for the Dragoness ranking. I'm gonna start, and Sulfa, I really like her. I'm not sure if she's 10 out of 10 material. She is definitely. And I'm going to say this, I'm going to give her an 8 out of 10 because I like the design. It's an extremely unique design for Dragonesses. It is one that looks unlike any other Dragoness that we've ranked so far with its more realistic appearance. Her personality is incredible, especially, again, for a show like this. The voice actress is clearly giving it her all with the performance, and it makes Sulfa seem more real. She's honestly the most realistic character in this entire show, believe it or not. So I would really love to give her a higher score. I feel like the only thing holding her back from a higher ranking, for me anyway, is that I feel like she needed a little bit more screen time in that, which again, maybe she has in other episodes, but if we're going just based on this episode alone, on the episode The Invisible Claw, she still gets an 8 out of 10 because she was the standout of this by a large margin. But unlike last week's, where the Dragoness was the only good thing about it, or one of the only good things, she makes a decent show even better, I feel. So that's how I'm going to give Dr. Sulfa an 8 out of 10. So, Angron?
Nice. I am going to give her the same score, actually. She is definitely one of those characters that I absolutely would want to get on board with if they ever decide to, continue this. Be that as it may, however, other than the fact that she doesn't have enough time ultimately dedicated to her, I can't ultimately say that, like,
I will have to agree that she needed more time dedicated to her.
Yeah, she absolutely needed more time.
Exactly.
As it stands, her character is ultimately great, and I haven't yet to see the rest of the show and understand where she ultimately stands as it comes later. However, that as it may, she is very much appealing. Her character's good. Her design, I actually like it very much. It makes her look like an alien dragon dinosaur thing going on. And she's very much on the higher positive end of the spectrum. So I will give her a 8 out of 10.
Nice. So, Stryker?
I'm thinking about giving her a 9 out of 10, actually.
Oh, that's nice.
It's I don't know why. I just, as soon as I saw her, I immediately loved her, and she reminded me of Gilmon from her design.
Oh, of course.
She very much does. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, honestly, I might change mine to 9 out of 10 because she's
ahead,
also the last of her kind, allegedly. So, people who are the last of their kind ultimately don't deserve that sort of thing.
But everything about the character, I just couldn't. I can't hate. It's that good.
All right, that's really, I get where you're coming from there. Again, she is the standout of the show, but unlike last week, like with the Bamboo Bears, here I feel like here she actually makes an already pretty decent show even better by her presence. And LuckyEevee, what would you have to say? You give her?
Let's go with that then.
8. All right.
Yeah.
And Jordan has written to me because she can't really talk this episode because basically things with her. But she's giving Sulfa a 7 out of 10, which is a pretty good score. So yeah, Sulfa ranked pretty high in this week's thing.
Also,
sorry, go ahead.
And also, for the previous question, Yusei has stated that he had picked both Star Wars and Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5, which I suppose that certainly counts.
No, definitely does. And so we'll just see if they have a ranking thing, and if not,
they are typing right now.
So just give it a second. Okay.
No, they're just saying they're number 1. He's mainly saying Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc V. Never mind.
That's right.
And he is typing now.
I think it is pronounced Arc 5, though.
It is Arc 5.
I definitely kind of see that. Okay, here.
My
apologies for this.
Friend of mine actually, I will say this right now before we go. A friend of mine did say for Arc 5 that you know what? Now I'll wait until later.
Okay, it's all good. Take your time. So if you have any questions, or if you would like to say how you would incorporate Sulfa in Star Wars, you can email us at fierydiscourse@outlook.com, or visit us on Twitter at twitter.com/fierydiscourse. And just one thing, Yusei's ranking is also a 7 out of 10.
Yes.
So that's that. And next time we'll be talking about the 1993 movie We're Back, A Dinosaur Story for our Thanksgiving special. This is going to be a lot of fun and talk about a movie that is kind of underrated in my opinion, and it definitely is a weird time. There is a lot to talk about with this movie.
Yeah, no kidding.
So, yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching. And until next week, take care.
Yep, laters.
Adios.